had a farm, usually most of them little vineyards. They had cattle, and goats, where they made cheese, and that was their business, was a cheese manufacturing company back in those days. My dad and his brother, of course, while they were teens, worked in the business, and stayed right there. My uncle worked in the factories making cheeses. My dad was a salesperson. He wasn't too anxious to work, so he was a salesperson.
Thanks, Papa.
So,
cheers to that.
So when the boys were in their 20s, they had a draft just like America. They were drafted in the service, which they called it conscription. It's the duty they had to pay for 2 years. Well, my dad wasn't about to go in the service, so I was told that he had a lot of influence with some of his very wealthy people. So he and his brother came to America with an opera company, and to Milan, where they had the Scala Opera House, and most you know where that is. Coming to America on a visa, and then not going back without and no passport, he had to stay in America and his brothers. Therefore, it was like an alien, actually. When my mother came over in 1882, and with my brother, he was 2 years old. During that time, my father had to find a job, of course, to support everybody. Had 2 more children, 2 daughters. One was born, and I never did understand it. I couldn't find out. One in Philadelphia, one in Pittsburgh. And then finally, for some reason, they settled in Missouri. Backtracking a little bit, like I say, the grandparents. Mother's name was our policy Marangoni. They were very upscale people in Italy, and of course my father's group was Zucchini, and had the farm and manufacturing cheese. My dad was a salesman, and his job was to take orders, horse and buggy, deliver the cheese after it was cured, and but coming to America, and you have to think about not being able to speak English, having to find a job, supporting the family.
Yeah.
It was pretty hard. I grew up like most kids, great family, went to parochial schools. I got an early start in school. My mother, very devout Catholic, Roman Catholic, helped out in the kitchen for us kids when we went to school. So when she started, before I went to school, I had to go with her. And while she was, they let me start school when I was, well, before 6, I was just almost 6 years old, 5. So I had to jump on my age in school. I went through the 8th grades. When I was in a lot of school plays. I had pretty good grades. Graduated when I was just before I was 14, and then went to started high school. I went to a public school in University City, and this was just the time when the Depression was just about over with. Depression was, as you all know, was 29, 30, in those areas, dates. And family was, they were all straining to survive. We had a big family. Had my brothers and his wife living there at one time and so forth. So I was able to, a new company came in, a grocery store came into St. Louis, A&P store. My sister was the accountant and bookkeeper, so I had a chance to get a job and I took it. That was when I went into high school. Fortunately, I was just 15 years old, but since my sister was the accountant, she got me the job. So I worked there for about 2 years. I did everything, stocked shelves, carry out, working with the cashiers, learning the business. And then my mother, this was about the middle of working in at the store. My mother became sick, and I'd say for about 2 years under doctor's care, they finally discovered that she had cancer. So during that time, as I worked all the years I went to high school. Then in 1938, when I graduated from high school, my mother passed away, and she was 58 years old. So there we had backtracking. When I have to tell, I'll have to go back to when my dad went from New York to Philadelphia, to Pittsburgh, and then to St. Louis. Most everybody, Italians, Irish, Germans, went in their own communities. Well, instead of my father going to the Italian Hill, which everybody knows about, he accumulated enough money to build a house. So we built a house out in the county. I still remember the address, 7286 Glen Avenue. We did have a telephone, which was on a party line. Of course, I never did get a chance to talk on it because my sisters took over.
Imagine that.
But had a nice house. It was 2 bedrooms, big house, garage, not acreage, but probably a third of an acre so far. We had a big garden, few fruit trees, chickens and everything, and that helped us. Everything was going fine my father came to me one day and said, got bad news, and I said, what is that? Well, we finally got the bill from the doctors that my mother had for a couple of years, plus the hospital. We're going to have to sell the house. Nice house, paid for. See, these days, but you could declare bankruptcy and get out of it. So what happened there, he sold the house. So he and I, we had to find a place to live. So we did. We got a room somewhere, which pretty pathetic, actually. Not what we used to have. So he got, my father was a gambler, and he always made money doing that. So he started a business. Like those days they call it a bookie business, where
Still do.
men would go in and gamble. Of course, I had to find a job, and I found all kinds of jobs doing certain things. But while he was, while he started his business, I didn't go to college. I took some nice courses, and it was in bookkeeping, and which helped me get work with contractors as a timekeeper and taking care of their books. Finally, the war just started in Europe with the Germans, and I got a real good job with the St. Louis Ordnance Plant as a timekeeper and paymaster. I got in that department because I knew a little bit about bookkeeping, and they were looking for help anyhow. My job, of course, was to, while all the men were out there supposedly working, there were so many men that you had to virtually check them, because if you didn't, all on time cards, they'd be punching each other out, and that didn't. It wasn't good. This was about 1942, I'd say. I was kind of a lost soul there for a while, not having my mother, who was raised you, being the boss and telling you what to do. But I remember that one night I was on working, and news came over that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. Well, that kind of shook me up for I don't know why. So the next day, I joined the Marine Corps. This was the first part of December, and I put my application in, and I remember waiting around, and finally one of the neighbors that I knew come to visit me and said, there were some men out here checking on you and your father. And I said, who are they? Well, they said they were from the FBI. And I said, what did they want? I was kind of astounded. Well, they just wanted to check and see what knew us. We were Italian, of course. At that time, the war in Europe, Germans had control, took over Italy, communists for a short time. Being Italian, Mussolini was in cohorts with Hitler. They did just like we did the Japanese. The people lived put them in camps. Well, fortunately,